This dehumidifier smells like mold, and it's also not collecting water like it should. I knew it needed a serious cleaning, but was not prepared for what I was about to see. The screen filters out hair and debris okay, but it's not so effective for dust. Been about 4 months since its last cleaning. Unfortunately, even when kept clean, this filter does not completely prevent dust from entering the dehumidifier. So I unplugged the unit and out come the screws for the cover panels. I've dreaded doing this for a while now. The unit was purchased new over 10 years ago, and I realized even back then that the factory filter would be inadequate for the dust in my workshop, but I foolishly put it in a corner out of the way and practically forgot about it, only cleaning the filter screen and reservoir once in a while. This was a huge mistake. Maybe I should have used a pre-filter of some sort. More about that later in the video. These side panels need to be gently tapped downward in order to remove them, because of the tabs used to secure them to the front grille. The control panel located on the top cover was disconnected from the control board before it and the front grille were removed. Alright, I don't want to show this, but I think it's necessary. It's much worse than I expected it would be. My failure to check and clean the dehumidifier coils for such a long period of time caused this problem. I expected a lot of dust, not a living ecosystem. The air passages through the coils are mostly blocked. This furry white substance looks like frost, but it's actually mold. And the slime, I believe, is caused by colonies of bacteria feeding on the dust. I'm embarrassed to show the result of my neglect to properly inspect and clean the dehumidifier. However, if this information can help prevent someone else from making the same mistake, then it's worth it. Air quality is very important, for health reasons. I'm not sure where to begin cleaning, so I start by vacuuming up the loose dirt and hair. Cannot believe how difficult this thing is for me to clean. 4 different covers and several screws have been removed, but I still don't have enough access to the coils to service them. Thought hard about recycling it soon after the covers came off, but its replacement will cost a couple $100. I'd like to save that money, so this do-it-yourself cleaning was done instead. Plenty of video is taken of each part before removal, which will be used as a guide during reassembly. Some of the information recorded will be the location of the parts and the fasteners used to secure them. The order that the parts are installed in is also fairly important. Often it's simply the reverse of disassembly. Video is usually my preference for recording that info, but pictures work fine. I believe this is the start capacitor for the compressor motor, and I'm pretty sure it can store enough electrical charge to be deadly. Using a clean, dry glove, a screwdriver with a well-insulated handle, and one hand, I short the terminals of the capacitor together for a few seconds to discharge it. It's hard to access the terminals through the opening in the cap, so I remove it. I only use one hand while discharging the capacitor in an effort to minimize the risk of electricity flowing through my heart if I get shocked. From what I understand, even a small amount of current from outside the body passing through the heart can be deadly. To be extra sure it's discharged, I check it with the voltmeter, again using one hand. The meter says less than 1 volt, so I assume it's safe. This to me seems like more risk than should be needed just to clean a dehumidifier. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Just like with the start capacitor, some of the components on the controller board might store enough charge to hurt me, so I keep my fingers off of it. Also, I believe static electricity from my body could potentially damage some of those components, but I don't know. Tried not to detach any more wires than necessary, as this blower section was partially removed and set out of the way. These coils need to be separated a bit more to allow for cleaning. Almost forgot my safety glasses. They're important because the coils and the lines connected to them are pressurized with refrigerant, and could spray my face if I accidentally broke or punctured one. After the evaporator and condenser coils are gently pulled apart, the whole thing was then tipped over onto this tray. The condenser coils on the back here will be cleaned first. To prevent dirt washed from the upper coil from falling into the coil below, a towel is spread between the two. A pneumatic solvent gun will be used to do the rinsing, but a garden hose with a spray nozzle might work better. In either case, care must be taken not to bend the thin aluminum fins on the coils when spraying and brushing. Before applying any soap, I flush away as much of the loose dirt and debris as I can using plain water and air. I spray from the back side of the coils to send the dirt and debris out the way it came in. Compressed air was very helpful. The coil was flushed a couple of times and then checked with the flashlight. It's already cleared out quite a bit. About 5 drops of dish soap was diluted in approximately 32 ounces of water. Then the soapy water was sprayed on the coils and allowed to soak for about 10 minutes. Bleach and vinegar are not used due to their tendency to corrode these kinds of metals. Next, a soft bristle brush is used to carefully scrub the aluminum fins on both sides. Now it's rinsed off. The dish soap could also cause parts to corrode, so I make sure it's all rinsed off when I'm done scrubbing. The condenser section cleaned out alright. Let's see how easily the evaporator cleans up. I follow the same basic process used with the previous coil. This one is going to take much more effort though. The moldy stuff on the intake side brushes off okay, but there's more in between the fins. Brushing in the same direction as those fins helps to remove the dirt between them. Probably should have worn a mask for this. I get what I can with the brush. The plastic bristles really help to loosen dirt and debris without damaging the fins. The air pressure was turned up to about 100 psi and I worked over the evaporator coil a couple of times, allowing the warm soapy water to soak for about 10 minutes each time. Even though all this dirt came out of the coils, they're still dirty. So they're sprayed with soapy water and allowed to soak while the rest of the dehumidifier is cleaned up. A damp rag or paper towel is enough to clean most of it. A small broom like this one is good for getting down into the tight spaces. Some areas require soap and water, while other areas just need the dust and hair swept out. I'm careful not to get the electrical components wet, but if I do, I'll dry them off quickly. Now back to the coils. The evaporator coil on the intake side is still partially blocked, but the condenser looks good. Focusing only on the dirty coil, I repeat the process a few more times. Each time it got better and better. None of the little fins were bent or damaged during spraying or scrubbing, but if any were bent, I'd just straighten them with a butter knife. It took about half an hour to remove the rest of the blockage. I made sure to rinse all of the soap from the coils. After a few more spots get attention, that's it. Done with cleaning. The coils are blown off with compressed air before using a fan to dry out the parts. The components are left to dry while I go and do something else for a few hours. When they're dry, reassembly begins. I want to install the parts in the reverse order of disassembly. The video and pictures taken during disassembly really help at this point. This housing for the coils and the blower motor swings back into place. It's then fastened. The housing for the blower fan went on next. I begin threading in all of the screws used to secure a part before going back and tightening all of them. Here I got confused about the routing of a couple of wires and should have looked at the video. Instead, a guess was made. I continued reassembly without giving it much thought. But something wasn't right though. I'm ready to zip tie some wires in place when I see the problem. Fortunately, I saw the issue early enough, but it could have been avoided by just checking the video. The wire that's out of place gets rerouted. Then the rest of the wires are routed and secured with zip ties where needed. The cover for the control board goes on, followed by the top cover and the front grille. That cover for the control board probably didn't even need to be removed. The wire harness from the control panel and display are plugged back into their respective connector. Then the little piece of shielding was zip tied back on those wires. As with the previous parts installed, I start by threading in all the fasteners for securing a part first, then tighten them down after they've all been started. The tails from the zip ties are cut off and everything gets a final check. Wires have all been routed and the correct screws for the internal parts have been installed and tightened. Now the side covers can go back on. They seem to go on a lot easier than they came off, which is a relief because I almost broke one during removal. A quick blast of air and the rear cover is installed. This was a big hassle. I don't want to do this again for a while. Actually, I don't want to do this ever again, but I'll probably have to. I think this dehumidifier is designed for a relatively clean home or house, not a dusty workshop such as mine. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. We'll try a pre-filter here in a minute and see how that works. The filter screen was washed in the sink and then dried off. This reservoir bucket needs a little disassembly before it's cleaned. A toilet brush works well for scrubbing, but it needs to be cleaned and disinfected if it's actually been used as a toilet brush. This one hasn't. I waited to clean this bucket until I knew the dehumidifier was back together, because I didn't know if I would even get this far. I keep the unit upright for a couple of hours before testing to allow the liquid refrigerant to drain back to the compressor. After the bucket is reassembled and installed, I test the dehumidifier. It's great to see it back in action. Now time to make a pre-filter. This window air conditioner filter material was purchased from a local hardware store for about $15. It's a 30-inch by 62-inch piece of material that will be cut to the size needed in order to cover the inlet of the dehumidifier. A piece of paper was used as a pattern to cut out the material. I'll keep it with the extra material and I'll use it for cutting replacement pre-filters. Covers the inlet completely with about an inch or so of overlap on each side. About 4 months after taping on the pre-filter, this is what it looks like. Lots of dust. The AC pre-filter is just as bad. I used painter's tape because it usually comes off cleanly. This color is what I had on hand, but other colors of painter's tape are available. Since it did a good job of securing the pre-filter, I think I'll use it again. The reservoir doesn't look too dirty. The screen is a little dusty, but nowhere near as bad as it would be without the pre-filter. The main thing is that these coils remain clean for as long as possible. A larger air purifier for the workshop might help, but I think it may be almost time to look for a dehumidifier design that makes it easy to access and clean the coils. I believe this pre-filter material will get clogged up with dust a lot faster than the filter screen will, so I need to keep an eye on it. Otherwise it could limit the airflow through the dehumidifier and cause it to overheat, which might be a fire hazard, so I'll change them often enough to prevent that. Well, I'm pleased to report that since the cleaning, this dehumidifier's performance is back to normal, and the musty moldy smell is now gone. Thanks for watching.